Hello, welcome. Thank you everyone for coming. And my name is Scott Jiro. I work for Microsoft as a cloud developer advocate. And welcome to those people who are watching online as well or on the recording. So I've spent my career as a software developer, spanning back, well, 25 plus years. And I've gone from healthcare to industrial control systems into financial services. And I can honestly say that never in my career has there been a time that's so exciting to be in technology. AI agents are transforming so many parts of our day-to-day life, in our home life, in our work life. And today I'm going to be talking about building AI agents. So you may have used this interface inside 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 Copilot or Teams. And this used to be called Agent Builder. But now it's called Copilot Studio Lite. Allows you to put a name, description, give some instructions, give some data to reason over, and you can very, very quickly get up and running and create an AI agent for yourself, a me agent, or you can then share that agent with your teams or your wider organization. Copilot Studio Lite. But today I'm going to be talking about advanced agent building in Copilot Studio Full Experience. So we're going to be looking at how that evolves and how we can actually build autonomous agents that can work on behalf of ourselves or maybe a process in our organization or on part of an organizational policy, but autonomously. We don't have to chat with it. It will work independently. And then we're going to look at how we can then orchestrate that by adding further features. So Copilot Studio is the place that you can go to build enterprise agents. You can enhance 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 Copilot, but you can also publish that to a variety of different other channels. And it's often referred to as a low-code platform. But just for today, I'd like you to not think about it as low-code. Some of the features I'm going to be showing you, it's more about the productivity gains that we can get from building these AI agents. Now, you may have seen so many different sessions today talking about Foundry, Agent 365, and so Copilot Studio works alongside, in fact, it's built on that technology. And so we can extend it with Azure Foundry as well. So there's this spectrum of agents that we can build. On one side, we've got the light experience, that very, very quick way of building agents. Then we've got this second pillar for makers, where you're using the full experience to add more advanced features. And then, if you want to, you can go and use Pro Code and extend it using Foundry or even Visual Studio. But at the heart of every agent, irrespective of how you build it, at the heart of the agent is the orchestrator. So the orchestrator is built using foundational models. So these are the models, the LLMs, GPT-5. You've seen Foundry has got, I think, 1,900 plus models. So the orchestrator works with that foundational model. Now, the foundational model, I like to think of it as kind of like a really, really gifted 6-year-old. Now, you wouldn't give your gifted 6-year-old the job of pouring scalding hot coffee for your guests. You're going to want to do a little bit of supervision there, right? And that is what the orchestrator is. The orchestrator is the heart of the agent. The orchestrator has got access to the user interface, how you talk to it. It has got access to the foundation models. It's got access to triggers, but it's also got access to knowledge and tools. So I'm going to be talking today about how that orchestrator uses knowledge, tools, and autonomy to perform actions. Some of those tools can be very, very simple. You could talk to an API. You can also have human in the loop in those tools where you can reach out to ask for help. But you can also use MCP servers. So I'm going to talk a bit about MCP servers. Now, I'm going to be doing lots of demos, OK? And demoing with AI is like an extreme sport. I love it. I love it. It's made demos like really exciting. Now, I kind of get a buzz from it because you never know what's going to happen. So let's see what's going to happen. But the instructions are the key. So you're going to see me writing instructions, adding tools, adding instructions, and seeing how the agent behaves with those instructions and with those tools. And what we're doing is we are giving instructions to that orchestrator, and that orchestrator is then using those instructions in combination with the foundation model to decide what to do. Contoso. We know and love Contoso. For many years, it supported us. But it's a brave new world. We don't talk about Contoso anymore. We talk about 𝗲𝗲. It's all about 𝗲𝗲, right? And so we have this scenario where Kat, supply chain manager, and Kat is working in 𝗲𝗲, managing orders and inventory. And she spends a lot of her time looking at dashboards of stock, looking at stock levels, looking at inventory coming in, inventory going out. And there may be APIs that she's talking to. So she's talking to the inventory system. And there may be ways of logging in, looking at dashboards that she maybe doesn't have an API for. So we need to give Kat a way of our agents interacting with this data. Model Context Protocol. It's the buzzword. We've all heard about MCP servers. Everyone's talking about them, right? And an MCP server is interacting with an API. But we've had APIs for ages. What's the difference? Why is MCP so special? Well, the thing is, if you've ever used an API, maybe create product, that API has got inputs. One of those inputs might be product ID. Now, the developer who created that API, they're maybe given it a description. What do you think the description is of the parameter product ID? Thank you. This is the product ID. So, as it turns out, context is really important for LLMs, for AI talking to systems. And that is the C in MCP. So MCP servers give a number of tools to the orchestrator, and these tools are dynamically discoverable, so the AI agent can interrogate to see what tools, and each of those tools has got a natural language description, which tells the AI agent how it can use it. We can add more instructions, but the key is that the MCP server is describing not only the tools, but also the parameters, what's going in and what's going out. Now, I think Andrew Tannenbaum in the 1980s said, the great thing about standards is that there are so many to choose from. Well, we've still got the ability to call custom connectors. We've had custom connectors for a very long time. They're still there. This is a way of wrapping up an API that works very well with the natural language interface. But sometimes those interfaces don't have an API. So we can use computer use. And computer use is we give our agent a desktop, and it gets to control the mouse. So Kat is doing this monitoring of inventory, and she wants to create an agent that's going to autonomously monitor those agents, using maybe computer use and using an MCP server. So with autonomous agents, what we can do is, rather than talking to our agent, as we would do in Teams or M365 Copilot, well, with autonomous agents, we give our agent a trigger that will then kick it into life. And that trigger could be a timer event. It could be a row being created in a database. And then that will then start the agent orchestrator reasoning and performing actions. So cat wants an autonomous agent to monitor stock and then perform actions based on that. So how does it all fit together then? We've got a trigger, and that trigger can be me asking the agent to do something, but that trigger also can be a autonomous trigger. But the key is it's the same agent. If an autonomous agent is triggered, it's exactly the same as if I'm talking to it. Then we've got the instructions, which are very important, and those instructions are then used by the orchestrator to create a plan. And that plan is a reasoning over which tools it's going to use, which tools has it got available to it. And then based on that plan, it performs those actions, and there is an outcome. And that outcome then can start again, and agents can then iterate. And the iteration is often very important here as well. So should we demo? Should we go to a demo, right? We've got to see actually how this stuff works. This is where it always gets exciting. So here we have this is our 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 Copilot. And over on the left-hand side here, I've got Create Agent. This is Copilot Studio Light Experience. Hands up, who has used this already? Oh, fantastic. Lots and lots of people. So you can come in here and you can describe what you want to do. You can configure it. And as part of that configuration, I can give it files, SharePoint sites, chats, and then I can even upload individual files as well if I want to. But we're not going to be using Copilot Studio Lite. We're going to be using Copilot Studio Full Experience. So hands up, who's used the full experience? OK. Less people, but still a good number. And so what we can do here is we're saying, what would you like to build? So I'm going to say, right, I want to build an agent to monitor product inventory and create product alerts. So we ask it to go away. Now, what it's doing now is it's using an LLM, a foundational model, to decide on how to build this agent. So this is very meta, right? We're using AI to build an AI model. But what you can see here is it's now got suggestion. So it says we can add a trigger, add knowledge, and add a tool. And remember, those are the three things that the orchestrator has access to. If we come down the bottom here, we've also got suggestions. So it actually suggests the triggers that we might use. So one trigger might be something, a row being created in SharePoint. Or indeed, it may be when an item is modified in SQL Server. Or it might be when a file is created or modified in SharePoint. We've got the ability here to also select the model. And so we've got a load of managed models here. So you can see there's a wide range of models. We've also got anthropic models at the bottom here, and these anthropic models will actually do advanced reasoning. They will iterate. So I'm going to select GPT-5 Chat. OK. Now, I'm going to give it some instructions, because remember how instructions are so important for our agent. So let's go down to the instructions area and edit this. And I'm going to paste it. Now, it's already created a load of instructions based on my initial prompt, which may be a good place to start. But just for the sake of our demo, I have got some instructions here. And these instructions are based on what Cat is doing. Cat is using a system and monitoring for low stock, less than 20 units. But she is also looking at the low stock and finding the total sales over the last 30 days. And using that, she's then looking at whether or not she needs to do a restock. So I'm using natural language to describe the agent and how it should perform based on what Cat was doing on a day-to-day basis. And this is the key thing about experimenting. Having the courage to experiment with agents is it's meeting you where you are today. Think about what you do, and giving your agent the ability to do what you would normally do on a day-to-day basis. So I've given it instructions like this. So I'm going to go over to, I'm going to save those instructions. There we go. And go over into settings. And in the settings, I've got a number of different options. So remember I talked about knowledge. Well, by default, our agent has the ability to use its general knowledge. It also can access the web as well. But in this particular case, we're just going to ground our particular agent on internal knowledge that we have from our system. So we're going to turn off general knowledge and turn off information from the web. So if I close this and go into knowledge, I can now add knowledge. Now, we've got a system which is actually, just for the sake of this purpose, this demo built in Dataverse. So this is the system that Kat would be going in and looking at. She's got an inventory chart here of all the different low stocks. She can also ask questions about the data. So let's give our agent that knowledge, that Dataverse knowledge. So if I search for 𝗲𝗲, you can see here are all the tables. And I'm going to add this to this agent. And so once I've done this, what this allows that orchestrator to do is to start to reason over that knowledge. Now, that knowledge could also be SharePoint files, public websites, Salesforce. We can also actually go and add in, upload individual files if we want to, or we can have Azure SQL. And there are additional advanced options here as well. So this is now added that in, and what we can do now is we can ask it a question. Now I'll just remind you of the instructions that I gave it is to monitor low stock. So let's see what it does. What product alerts do I have? What product alerts do I have? So now the orchestrator has kicked into action, and it's creating a plan. So we see the plan, and you can see here it's searching sources. Now, one of the things about knowledge is it's great for doing lookups, but it's not always necessarily going to make the right choice. Sometimes we want to make a little bit more of a specific instructions on what to do against this data source. So I'm going to remove this, and this is where MCP servers come in. So if I head over to Tools, I can come in here and I can add in an MCP server. So just like with connectors, if you look at connectors, we've got the A to Z, like thousands of these connectors from Adobe to Zendesk. These have been around for a very long time, very mature. But now what we're seeing is more and more MCP servers popping up. So we can see that we've got a number of different vendors creating these MCP servers. We can also add in MCP servers by giving it a server name, a description, and a URL, and the authentication as well. So we can connect to a remote MCP server. But in this particular case, I'm going to go and use Dataverse. So I'm going to go and select the Dataverse MCP server because, remember, that's where our data is stored. And remember, the C in MCP is context. So what this allows us to do now is have our agent query for what tools this particular MCP server has. Now, I've got the ability to turn these on and off at an individual tool level. So you can see that this has got the ability to create tables and update tables and delete tables. Probably don't want it to do that. And indeed, we maybe don't want it to create records, but we do want it to be able to list tables and describe the tables and read the query. So what this means is if I now go and start a new test session here and ask it that question again, what product alerts are there? So now the orchestrator is going to kick into action. We have to give it access because this is using my particular identity to connect to that database. And so the orchestrator now is discovering the tools. So you can see here, it is seeing which tools are available, and it's listing the tables that are available, and then it's describing, so it's now starting to get the metadata. This is our agent going into this database and discovering all of the metadata, the schema, and then once it's done that, it can go and do a query. But sometimes that query doesn't quite cut it. So you might then have a colleague, or you may indeed be better at SQL. And so we can come in here and we can edit this, and we can give it hints. So I'm giving it some hints on which particular query to do, where you can see here where it's less than a threshold. We're not giving it the specific query. This is not like a stored procedure. This is just a hint based on what the agent should be doing. So now let's see what happens. So I'll create a new query here. What product alerts are there? And the advantage of doing this is, of course, is that now the orchestrator has got more information. The instructions are key here. We've given the orchestrator the knowledge of which tables to query. So it doesn't need to go and interrogate the schema, list the tables, describe the tables. You can see it's gone straight for reading the actual data. You can see here it's run a query, and it's got data. And based on that, you can see here it's made these particular recommendations on which needs to be stocked. And we can see the queries, so we can just check what it's doing. Now, remember, what Cat wants to do is be able to do a autonomous agent here. So in order to make this autonomous, what we can do is we can go and give it a tool. Maybe we want to get an email notification. And so we've got connectors. We don't need to use MCP servers all the time. We can use the Outlook connector, which is very easy. This is a specific job. There is an MCP server for Outlook, but we want to give it a specific tool to do one thing. And so we're going to give it a name. So we give it instructions here. Say this tool sends a product alert email when needed. And if we come down here, we can say this is going to be a custom value, and I'm going to make sure that this agent always sends it to me. So not display name, email, because I'm the author of this agent, so it's going to always use my email. And if I customize this parameter, I can give it some instructions. So remember I was saying that instructions are always the key. I'm giving a description, the context is saying create an HTML formatted list with pretty color formatting. So we'll see what it does. We'll see what it decides is pretty. So we'll save that. Now, in order to make this autonomous, what I also need to do is to give it a trigger. So I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to go into my trigger section, and we can tools, agents, topics, suggested, where is it? Triggers, there we go. So let's add a trigger. Now we've got a variety of different triggers, but I'm just going to do this on a schedule. So every day, rather than Cat going and checking this, I'm going to say this is a recurring trigger, and I'm going to say that every day, so trigger it on every day. So when we trigger this agent, what we also need to do is we need to give it instructions on what to do. So this is what this additional message. Now remember I was saying that an autonomous agent is effectively like we are triggering it and giving it a message in order to follow instructions. So what I'm saying here is check for product alerts, and then if there are any product alerts, send a product alert email. So let's create the trigger. Now, once I've created this trigger, I can then test it. So I don't need to wait every day. I've got the ability inside Copilot Studio here to test it. So let's go and have a look at what it's done. So wait for it. And what this is actually doing behind the scenes is creating a Power Automate flow trigger. Now, you might be wondering, like, well, what's the difference? Like, why not just go and create a Power Automate flow to do this? Well, if you're going to create a Power Automate flow to do this, you're going to have to handle every single possible combination and permutation. What we're doing here is we're using natural language to give the orchestrator, and that orchestrator is then going making the right decisions based on what to do. So here we go. It's adding the trigger, and then we will go and trigger and test this. So down here we've got this little test button. I'll test that. And what this does is if you look on the right-hand side, you can see that there is our trigger. And if we look at what the trigger sent, you can see there is that prompt that we defined in the automated trigger. And there it will actually go and start performing the right actions. And there it's already done it, sent the email. So let's go and see it actually if this has done what it should have done. Let's see what it thinks is colorful. So, okay, right. Well, colorful in this particular case is red. not so colorful. But maybe I could have given it some more specifics. I could have said, well, if restock is needed, then put it in red, or if stock is low, put it in amber. You can give it in natural language instructions, and that is the critical difference here. We are using the AI to perform the actions and making it a lot quicker to do this autonomous trigger. So what we can also do, if we are, let's go back into our, what we can also do is we can enable deep reasoning as well. And what deep reasoning does is uses a more advanced model to actually look at data and then reason over it, perhaps perform more complex calculations. But we can also add the ability to our agent to actually write code. So let's do that. Let's go in here into our settings and turn on Code Interpreter here. So if we turn on Code Interpreter, say save, what this now does is this means our agent can write Python code, which is pretty cool. So I've got a prompt here that I'm going to copy here. And what I'm doing here is saying first query for the product alerts, and then using the code tool, create an Excel file of this data with graph of stock levels. So let's see what it's going to do now. So it should now go and use the MCP server to go and query that data. So you can see it's reading the data. It's reasoning, reading some more. And then what it should do is take that data and actually then write some Python code. So you can see here it's using the code preview tool to write some code. Here we go. It's writing code in progress. And it sends that data that we've just got from the MCP server into that code tool. And then this should give us a download for us to see, which will open up in Excel. So I actually have got one that I already have done, just so rather than waiting for it. So actually, there we go. Now it's written some Python code, which is pretty cool. And it's given us the ability to download the file. And there is an example of an Excel that is created. And that's completely created on the fly. Pause for applause there. No, it's OK. Just a joke. So we've seen the ability for Cat to now use the advanced features of Copilot Studio Full Experience to make an autonomous agent to go and query Dataverse, take some data, reason over that data, decide on what stocks need to be replenished, and then actually go and send us an email, and also use code to create a downloadable. But also, the thing is that the more and more information we give to our agents, the more complex they give, and they create, and then maybe those agents are becoming too hard to maintain. And this is where teams of agents come in. As it turns out, AI agents work better if you give specific instructions for a specific area, separation of concerns. This is something we've been doing in software for a very long time. Componentization, microservices. It's the same architectural pattern. And it works exactly the same with AI agents. So we have multi-agent orchestration, where we can add multiple agents to one agent, and those agents then can talk to other agents. You might have seen the Agent 365 graphs, where you've got agents connected and talking and sending data. This is exactly what's happening here. Now, the other thing is that AI is great. It's very, very useful for doing non-deterministic logic. But sometimes there are things that you just want to have happen in a specific way. The same inputs create the same outputs. And that's where deterministic processes are. And these are agent flows. So what we can do is we can create what we used to call a Power Automate flow. But now it's got a new lick of paint, some new features, and it's inside Copilot Studio. And there is also the ability to have human in the loop. So if our agent hits a snag, we can actually go and call out and get myself to go and intervene or make a decision. So let's go and have a look at how we do that. So let's go and create another agent here. So I'm going to go into here, and I'm going to give the same way as I'm going to give it some instructions and create a warehouse. So the idea here is that our warehouse agent is going to manage inventory, but also manage restocking our warehouse. So if I come over to this Agents tab, what I've got the ability to do here is add another agent to my agent. So if I select this, I can say connect to a child agent, or I can connect to another agent that has been already published. So there's two types of agents here, child and connected agents. So a connected agent may be managed by another team, somebody else in our organization. They've built it and they've published it. Whereas a child agent is about my agent that I'm building, but I'm just separating it out into multiple smaller agents to manage the complexity. But we can also connect it to external agents as well. So in this case, the fabric agent is available here. So our agent has been created. So let's now connect it to this is our inventory monitoring agent, so that we just created. So I'll add that. Now, the one thing to note is that needs to be published. And so when I go into channels, we got the ability to publish it to multiple channels. So I actually already published that as an existing one. And so when you publish it, that will then appear inside 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗍𝗀𝗀 Copilot or Teams. You can see this is where we're downloading that product alerts spreadsheet inside Teams. And here it is inside 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗍𝗀𝗀 Copilot. You can see it in the left-hand side here, and we can ask it what product alerts are there. But in this case, what we're seeing is the ability to add it into another agent. So I've added in a connected agent. So now let's add in a new agent, a child agent. And let's give it a name. And let's give it a description. And these descriptions are quite important because they tell the agent what it can do. So our parent agent has got instructions. So if we look down here, we've got instructions. If we get rid of this, our parent instructions, we need to tell it to say, well, what is this child agent doing? So let's give it some instructions here. Instructions are always the key. Prompt harder. So what we're saying here is use the product inventory agent to create product inventory adjustments. There it is. And then we're saying only run once per unique adjustment request, and always provide a summary of actions taken. So let's take that and let's save that. Let's head over to our child agent. And we also want to give it some instructions as well. So you can see we're separating out the functionality into smaller components. In this case, I'm not going to give it any more complex instructions. I'm just going to say always provide a summary of actions. But what I can do is add knowledge and tools to this agent. So if we go into the knowledge, remember I said that knowledge is great for kind of lookups, that kind of thing. Well, I'm going to give my child agent the ability to look up products. So I'm going to add the 𝗲𝗲 product table. So now my child agent, if there is any confusion over a product, it will go and look that up. But I can also go and add a tool here as well. And this is where deterministic behavior comes in. AI agents, by very nature, this is what makes them exciting to demo. They are non-deterministic. They are going to do things differently each time. Whereas an agent flow is always going to do the same thing every time I call that. And in this particular agent flow, which I've created already, if we go and look at the actual agent flow designer here, and come over here, you can see when I create an agent flow, there is some inputs here, and there are some outputs. So the inputs are the product ID, the quantity, and the adjustment amount, the adjustment type, restock or return, and the response is the new product inventory adjustment ID. In the middle, this is where I create my deterministic behavior. Now, just for simplicity, I've just added a new row, so I'm adding a product inventory adjustment using this data that's input. But I could actually go and add in some branches. So if I type control here, I can say that I've got a do until or a condition, a switch. So let's select condition. And rather than letting the AI agent decide on what to do, we're giving it deterministic conditions here. So we're giving a traditional if statement, if you like. Not only that, we can actually, if in the same way as an AI agent making a decision, we can use something called human in the loop. So I can select here a human in the loop approval. And what this does is this gives us the ability to have a manual stage of approval or an AI stage of approval. A manual stage is it's going to come out to me to ask, say, for example, if the product inventory is above a certain amount. Maybe it needs to go and talk to somebody. But also, we can have an AI stage. And so, for example, let's say invoice approval. So here we can say that this AI agent is going to be given an invoice document, a purchase order, good receipts note, and then we give it natural language description on what it needs to do. And ultimately, what it's going to do here is it's either going to approve or it's going to reject based on that instructions. So it's like a mini agent making an approval decision in the same way as you might ask one of your colleagues to make an approval decision. But the key is it's human in the loop here, so we can combine the two. So, as well as that, let's go back to our agent that we were building. We've just added in that agent flow. And as always, we need to give it instructions. So I'm putting some instructions in here to say if there is no matches, ask for clarification of which product, or return disambiguation list. So ask me which product did I actually mean. So I'm giving instructions here on what to do. So let's go and see what we've also got the parameters. We've got product ID, quantity, and adjustment type. Remember, these are the inputs to that deterministic. So this is the interface between non-deterministic behavior and deterministic behavior. So if I come into here and say, and look at these instructions that we're giving to our agent, to the orchestrator, we're saying this is the product ID and allowing the user to search for this knowledge. Only use the GUID of the product. So let's see what this does. And I've got a prompt here. And I'm going to put this in here. Say, I need to create a product inventory adjustment, create a product inventory adjustment of shirts restocking 10 units. Now, based on our instructions, what this should do now is go and create the orchestrator should create a plan. The plan should be searching for the product. So you can see here it's already started to the knowledge. And you can see in the plan view here, it's gone and got the product ID. But also, notice something really interesting here. I am interacting with my warehouse agent. And my warehouse agent now, because we gave it that instructions, it's now delegated that task off to a child agent. You can see here that this is the product inventory adjustments agent. And so you can start to imagine where you have got multiple of these child agents, all with different specialists, and we've got that top level agent orchestrating the child agents. So what we've got now is it's gone and said, okay, we've searched I've searched the inventory database for products categorized as shirts, but no matching products. So let's try it again because I need to create a new session. The Dataverse, I don't think that the Dataverse data was available, so it takes a little while for that knowledge to kick in. So let's try it again. Always interesting using AI. So there we go. It's now searching the product. And it should now give us the ability to say, well, which product do you want to actually pick? Because there are multiple matches for shirts. So let's see what it comes back. Now, it's interesting because, so here you go. Now it's working. We've got all of these different shirt colors, in fact. And the instructions that come back saying that there are multiple ones here. Remember, we gave it instructions to ask the user for that disambiguation. So let's say the navy shirt. And now, based on that, the child agent is going to go and step onto the next stage, which will be passing that to the deterministic behavior. You've selected the navy. There are two products with navy color. So let's just use this active flex t-shirt. There we go. And so what it should do now is it should give us the product ID as an input to the product inventory adjustment. You can see here. So there we go. It's now put that into the input, the quantity of 10 because I told it, and I say it's a restock. And then the output is the new product inventory adjustment ID. So our child agent is now already capable of doing some pretty cool things. But say I've got a delivery note. Okay, so and in our warehouse, we get given that delivery note, and at the moment, people are typing it in. So what we can do here is you can go and add a tool in here, and we can actually use something called prompts to do multimodal reasoning. So I'm going to select extract delivery note PDF data and add and configure. And what multimodal means is it will accept a PDF, convert that to an image, and reason over that image to extract data. So let's take a look at what this does. And a prompt is using that foundational model, and we're sending instructions, and we're also sending data. So in this particular case, what we're doing here is we are sending a delivery note, and we're also telling it to match the products against the knowledge, the product knowledge. So I'm going to give it this upload an image or a document, and I open up this. So let's look at this. This is a delivery note that's been sent, and then I will test that. And this sends it off to, we're using GPT-4 Mini, but I can also use AI Foundry models if I wanted to, if I wanted a fine-tuned model to do this. And notice that this is asking it to output as JSON. So we can then use that JSON to then take further action. So there we've got the JSON. So we're going to keep that and cancel that. And let's go back into our agent, warehouse inventory agent. But what happens if these delivery notes are being read, but they're being entered into another system, but that other system doesn't have an API? Or maybe it has an API, but we don't have access to that API. Remember, I said that you can also give your agents a desktop and access to be able to control the mouse. And this is where we start to use a tool called computer use for agents, or 𝗀𝗀. So if I select this and select one of these example prompts, you can see what we're giving is natural language instructions to use a desktop. So I'm going to add and configure this. And that desktop could be hosted in the cloud, or it could even be self-hosted. You can install a client on one of your internal machines. So I'm going to go and grab a set of instructions that I've already created and go and look what they say. So what we're giving it here is saying, open this particular website, and then we're entering a username and password, logging in, and then creating a new delivery note, entering in the delivery details summary, and we're also saying add products. This is different to robotic process automation. This is not deterministic. Go click the button with this ID, fill in this text box with this ID. We're giving natural language instructions. And so if you come down here, we can see we've got this is on a hosted browser, but I could have a cloud pool in our network or our own machine as well. I can even ask it to, if it needs some clarification, it will reach out to me in Outlook for human supervision. And you can see here I've got my credentials stored in Azure Key Vault. So I'm going to save this and then give it a test to see what will happen. And what we'll see now is it's asking for data. Now, that data is the data that we got from that prompt, that JSON. And that JSON has got the line items from that PDF that we uploaded. So what it's going to do now is it's going to start that desktop, and it's going to open up the browser, and it's going to start controlling the mouse. Think of the opportunities you have where you don't have a specific API to interact with, or maybe the API is too complicated. This suddenly opens up a whole raft of new possibilities. So let's go and take a look at some of those that I've already. So this is the warehouse system. So I can log in to that, and well, let's go over to look at one that it's already done. This is a existing activity. So if I come into activities here, you can see all of the individual activities that I've run. And this is where it gets really cool, because you can see it's actually using the desktop at the top. If we scroll to the top here, there's the data that we passed. There's the desktop that it's looking at. It's logging in. It's entering in the data. And if I select map view here, we even have a little kind of animation of where it's controlling the mouse. So you can see here where that red cross is. It's clicking on the different locations and entering in the data. And it's actually entering in multiple different line items. So this opens up a whole raft of opportunities. So the key is that once you've created these agents in your environment, you also need to be able to make sure that you can monitor what is going on. So there is a new feature now which allows you to go and create tests for your agent. So you give it example prompts, and then you see what those responses come back. But also, we've got a number of different analytics. You can go into your agent. We can look at the analytics tab. You can see KPIs. And this is where you start to get the return on investment of your agents. So I would encourage you to keep learning. And go to this link. There is a whole raft of different resources that you can use. And there is from my team, Agent Academy, which runs you through creating an agent step by step. At the moment, there is the recruit path, but then we are releasing the operative path very soon, and then there's going to be a commander path, more advanced, and 𝗀 will be in that. But have the courage to experiment. Try this stuff out. See how it works. That is the key to getting the most out of this technology, is trying things. So, thank you so much for listening, and I'll be around if you have any questions.
Thank you for joining us at Microsoft